Don't speak to anyone. Don't make eye contact. And if the grandfather asks you something, pretend you don't understand. Those were my instructions for serving at the most dangerous party in Manhattan. I was just supposed to pour wine and disappear. But when the old man grabbed my wrist and spoke in rapid Calabrian dialect, something in his frustrated tone reminded me of my grandmother. I answered him, in perfect Indranka dialect, the kind only family members are supposed to know. 50 armed men turned to stare at me. The room went so silent I could hear my own heartbeat. Because I'd just revealed I understood every private conversation they'd been having all night. Every name, every deal, every threat. My supervisor's face went white. The security team reached for their weapons. And Rocco Santoro, the man who controlled the entire Calabrian network in New York, started walking toward me with an expression I couldn't read. My grandmother had made me promise to never speak this dialect in public. Now I understood why. But it was too late. He was already in front of me, his dark eyes studying my face like he was deciding whether to protect me or eliminate me. Who taught you to speak like that? He asked quietly. And I realized my answer would determine if I left this party alive. I opened my mouth, but no sound came out. Rocco Santoro stood so close, I could see the calculating intelligence in his dark eyes, the kind that had built an empire on fear and loyalty. My grandmother, I finally managed, my voice barely above a whisper. She was from Reggio Calabria. She taught me when I was little. His jaw tightened, almost imperceptibly. Behind him, I could see his grandfather lean forward, suddenly alert. The old man said something in rapid Calabrian, too fast for me to catch every word, but I understood enough. He was asking about my family name, about bloodlines. Rocco's hand moved to my elbow, not rough, but firm, possessive. Come with me, he said quietly. It wasn't a request. Sir, I'm working, I protested, trying to keep my voice steady, non-confrontational. My supervisor will fire me if I abandon my station. I can't afford to lose this job. The laugh that escaped him was sharp, humorless. Your supervisor works for the company I hired, he replied, already guiding me toward the private section. You're not losing anything. You're being promoted. I wanted to argue, wanted to pull away. But I'd learned long ago that sometimes the safest path was cooperation. Don't fight. Don't cause problems. Just go along until you can slip away unnoticed. My grandmother had taught me that too, though I was starting to suspect she'd been preparing me for something far more specific than general life advice. The grandfather was already rising when we approached, his weathered face transformed by something between shock and joy. He spoke directly to me in Calabrian, his words tumbling out with urgency that made my stomach drop, because he wasn't just asking about my grandmother. He was asking about Isabella Greco, and that was my grandmother's maiden name. The old man's eyes filled with tears, actual tears, from a man who'd probably ordered more deaths than I'd had birthdays. Isabella's granddaughter, he breathed, switching to broken English for Rocco's benefit. She has her eyes, exactly her eyes. My heart hammered against my ribs, because I knew that look. It was the same expression my grandmother wore whenever she spoke about the family she left behind. The ones she'd never been allowed to contact again. The ones who'd made her promise to forget the dialect, to forget them, to disappear into America and never look back. I'd thought she meant relatives who didn't approve of my grandfather. I'd been wrong. She'd meant the Ndrangheta. Isabella Greco, the old man continued, his weathered hands gripping the arms of his chair. My sister. My blood. We thought she died in the earthquake of '83. The family told us she was gone. The room seemed to tilt. She didn't die, I whispered. She came to America. She married my grandfather. She raised me after my mother. I couldn't finish, because the implications were crashing over me like a tsunami. My grandmother hadn't just known these people. She was one of them, which meant I was one of them. Rocco's expression had shifted, from calculated assessment to something I couldn't quite read. His hand was still on my elbow, but his grip had loosened, like he was steadying me instead of restraining me.
When did she pass? The old man asked softly.
3 weeks ago, I managed, my throat tight. I've been working double shifts to pay for her medical bills, to cover the funeral costs. I stopped, because suddenly, 6 security guards had materialized around our table, their expressions grim, and one of them was speaking rapidly into his earpiece. Something was wrong. No, Rocco said quietly, using the Italian word for grandfather. We need to move you now. But the old man waved him off, his eyes still fixed on my face. How much debt? He asked me directly. I blinked, confused. What? Your grandmother's medical bills. The funeral. How much do you owe? I don't need. Answer him, Rocco said, his voice gentle but firm. I swallowed hard. 42,000, I admitted, the number tasting like ash in my mouth. I've been making minimum payments, working 3 jobs, but the interest keeps. The old man made a sharp gesture to one of the guards. Pay it, he commanded. All of it. Tonight. My head spun. Sir, I can't accept. Your family, he interrupted, his accent thick with emotion. Isabella's blood. My blood. You don't carry debt like a common. He caught himself, switched back to Calabrian dialect, and said something that made every man at the table straighten. Rocco translated, though I'd understood perfectly. He says you're under Santoro protection now. Anyone who threatens you, anyone who touches you, anyone who even looks at you wrong. He didn't finish. He didn't need to. I'd just been claimed by one of the most dangerous families in New York, and I had no idea if that made me safer or painted the biggest target imaginable on my back. One of the security guards approached Rocco, whispered something urgent in his ear. Rocco's expression darkened. The Russo family knows, he said quietly. To his grandfather, not to me. They have someone in the catering staff. They know who she is, what she is, and they know she's here. The temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. Get her out, the old man commanded, rising with surprising strength for someone his age. Use the private exit. Take her to the safe house on 5th. I'll deal with the Russos. But Rocco shook his head. They'll expect the safe house. They'll expect me to hide her. He turned to me, his dark eyes intense. How do you feel about a very public escort home? I stared at him. What? I'm going to walk you out the front entrance, in front of everyone, in front of their informants, in front of the cameras outside. His lips curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. I'm going to make it very clear that you're not someone they can touch quietly. That's insane. I breathed. That makes me more visible, more vulnerable. It makes you mine, he corrected softly. And no one touches what's mine. The possessiveness in his voice should have terrified me. Instead, it sent a shiver down my spine that had nothing to do with fear. 15 minutes, Rocco said. To his security team. Not to me. Clear the front. I want 6 vehicles, black SUVs, formation Delta, and call ahead to her apartment building. I want 2 men in the lobby by the time we arrive. Formation Delta. 6 vehicles. Armed escorts to my studio apartment in Queens. This was insane. I can't. I started, but Rocco's hand moved to the small of my back. Possessive. Protective. Yes, he said quietly. You can. Because you're not a waitress anymore. Isabella. The way he said my full name, like he was tasting it, claiming it, made my breath catch. You're a family, he continued, his voice low enough that only I could hear. My family. Which means you're under my protection, whether you want it or not. And as 6 armed men in pristine black suits formed a protective semicircle around us, I realized my safe, invisible life had just ended. I was about to walk out of this penthouse with a Mafia boss, in front of cameras, in front of his enemies, with 6 vehicles full of armed men escorting me home. There was no going back from this, no returning to anonymity, no more disappearing into the crowd. Rocco Santoro had just claimed me in front of his entire world, and something told me he never let go of what he considered his. The ride to my apartment was surreal. 6 black SUVs, in formation, like a presidential motorcade. Except the president was a Mafia boss, and I was the scared waitress trapped in the middle vehicle with him. Rocco sat beside me, his posture relaxed, his expression unreadable. Like this was perfectly normal. Like he escorted terrified women home in armed convoys every Tuesday. You didn't have to do this, I said quietly, breaking the silence that had stretched for 3 blocks. He turned to look at me, and for the first time, I saw something other than calculation in those dark eyes. Amusement, didn't I? He replied, his voice soft. The Russo family already knows who you are. They know you're Isabella Greco's granddaughter. They know you speak the dialect. And they know my grandfather claimed you as family. He leaned closer, not threatening, but intense. That makes you either leverage against us, or a message we send to them. There's no middle ground. My stomach dropped. A message? Dead, he clarified. Simply, like he was explaining the weather. They kill you publicly, prove the Santoro family can't protect its own. Show weakness to every other organization watching. The casual way he said it made my blood run cold. So you're protecting me by making me more visible. I managed, my voice steadier than I felt. I'm protecting you by making you untouchable. He pulled out his phone, showed me something that made my breath catch. A photo of us, walking out of the penthouse together. His hand on my back. Possessive, protective. Already posted on some underground social media platform I'd never heard of. With a caption, in Italian. What does it say? I whispered. La famiglia Santoro ha rivendicato la nipote di Isabella Greco, he translated. His accent, perfect. The Santoro family has claimed Isabella Greco's granddaughter. He scrolled down, showing me the comments. Hundreds of them. In Italian, Calabrian, Albanian, Russian. They're all saying the same thing, Rocco continued. That you're under our protection now. That touching you means war with the entire Calabrian network. My hands trembled. I didn't ask for this. No, he agreed. You asked for help, and in my world, that comes with consequences. We pulled up to my building, a modest apartment complex in Queens. The kind with broken buzzers and flickering hallway lights. The kind where nobody asked questions about your business. 2 men in dark suits were already stationed in the lobby. I recognized the look, the same cold assessment I'd seen on every security guard at the party. You put men in my building? I asked, disbelief creeping into my voice. I put men in your building, outside your building, and across the street, watching the fire escape. He said it like it was reasonable, like it was normal. For how long? Until I decide you're safe. Something in his tone made me turn to face him fully. Or until you decide I'm useful. I challenged, because I'd spent my whole life reading people, understanding what they needed from me. And Rocco Santoro needed something. I just didn't know what yet. His expression shifted. A flash of something respect. Recognition before the mask slid back into place. Come on, he said, opening the door before I could respond. I need to see your apartment. You need to see my apartment, I repeated, following him, because what choice did I have? Security assessment, he replied. Already inside my building, already nodding to his men, already taking control of my space like he owned it. My studio apartment was on the 4th floor. No elevator, just narrow stairs that smelled like cooking oil and old carpet. I'd always loved this place. It was mine. Small, cramped, but mine. Now Rocco Santoro was about to see it, and judge it, and probably decide it wasn't secure enough. I unlocked the door with shaking hands. He walked in first. Of course he did, because men like him always went first. Always checked for danger, always controlled the situation. I watched him take in my tiny studio, the Murphy bed still down from this morning, the kitchen that was basically a hot plate, and a mini fridge, the single window with its fire escape view, the stacks of my grandmother's things I still hadn't sorted through. This is where you live, he said, not a question. A statement, laced with something I couldn't quite identify. I'm sorry it's not a penthouse, I shot back. Defensive. Some of us work 3 jobs to pay rent. He turned to face me, and I realized I'd said the wrong thing. 3 jobs, he repeated, while carrying $42,000 in debt, while grieving your grandmother, while living in a 4th floor walk-up with no security system and a fire escape anyone could climb. He stepped closer. That ends tonight. My heart hammered. What ends? The debt is paid. You quit 2 of those jobs, and you move somewhere safer. Excuse me? The words came out sharper than I intended. But he'd just made 3 decisions about my life, without asking, without consulting, without even pretending I had a say. Your debt is handled, Rocco continued. Like I hadn't spoken. I'm having it transferred to our accounts tonight. You'll receive confirmation by morning. I didn't ask you to pay my debt. You didn't ask for a lot of things, but here we are. He walked to my window, examined the lock, tested the frame. This building isn't secure. The front door lock is broken. There's no doorman, no cameras. Anyone could walk in. I've lived here for 3 years. Before you were Isabella Greco's granddaughter. Before the Russo family knew you existed. Before I claimed you in front of every organization in New York. He turned back to me. Things are different now. You're different now. I'm not different, I protested, my voice rising. I'm the same person I was this morning. Before that party. Before your grandfather. Before you decided. Before you spoke Calabrian dialect in front of 50 witnesses. His voice cut through mine. Sharp. Final. You made yourself different, Isabella. I'm just dealing with the consequences. The way he said my name. Full name. Like he was claiming it. Claiming me. Don't call me that. I whispered. Why not? It's your name. My name is what I choose to be called. And I'm choosing to call you Isabella. You're staying here tonight, he said. Just like that. A statement. Not a request. What? One of my men will be outside your door. 2 more in the lobby. Alternate shifts every 4 hours. He was already texting someone. Already arranging my life. Already deciding. You can't just... Tomorrow, we'll find you a better place. Somewhere with actual security. Somewhere the Russos can't access without triggering alarms. I can't afford a place like that. He looked up from his phone, and the expression on his face made me take a step back. You're not paying for it. Then I'm not moving into it. Silence. Heavy. Loaded. He pocketed his phone. Walked toward me. Slowly. Deliberately. Until he was close enough that I could smell his cologne again. Expensive. Intoxicating. Dangerous. Let me be very clear, he said quietly. His voice low. Controlled. You're under Santoro protection now. That's not optional. That's not negotiable. And that means you live where I say you live. You work where I say you work. And you listen when I tell you something is for your safety. My heart pounded against my ribs. So I'm your prisoner? You're my responsibility. I didn't ask to be your responsibility. You asked for help, he countered, his eyes dark, intense. And this is what help looks like in my world. Your world? I shot back, finding courage I didn't know I had. I don't want to be part of your world. I don't want armed men outside my door. I don't want to move into some fortress. I don't want you paying my debts or making decisions about my life. Too late. Those 2 words. So simple. So final. It's not too late, I insisted. My voice shaking but firm. I can walk away. I can refuse your protection. I can go back to my normal life. There is no normal life anymore. He stepped even closer. Close enough that I had to tilt my head back to meet his eyes. The moment you spoke that dialect. The moment my grandfather recognized your grandmother's name. The moment I walked you out of that penthouse. Your normal life ended. His hand moved to my chin. Gentle but firm. Tilting my face up. You're in this now. Whether you like it or not. The touch sent electricity through my skin. Wrong. This was wrong. He was dangerous. Controlling. Everything I should run from. But I couldn't move. Couldn't breathe. Let me go, I whispered. I'm trying to keep you alive. By taking away every choice I have. His jaw tightened. If that's what it takes. I jerked away from his touch. Put distance between us. Then you're no different than the people you're protecting me from. The words hung in the air. Sharp. Cutting. His expression shuddered. Maybe I'm not. He walked to the door. Paused with his hand on the handle. My man will be outside all night. Don't try to leave. Don't try to contact anyone without clearing it with me first. And tomorrow, we're moving you somewhere safe. What if I refuse? He looked back at me. And for a moment, I saw something in his eyes that made my stomach drop. Not anger. Something worse. Determination. Then I'll move you anyway. The door closed behind him, leaving me alone. In my tiny apartment. With armed guards outside. And the terrifying realization that Rocco Santoro wasn't asking for permission. He was taking control, and I had no idea how to stop him. I didn't sleep that night. How could I? With armed guards outside my door. With the knowledge that my entire life had been turned upside down in a single night. With Rocco Santoro's words echoing in my head. Maybe I'm not different. At 6 a.m., someone knocked. 3 sharp raps. Professional. I opened the door to find a woman in her 30s, impeccably dressed. Sharp eyes that assessed me in seconds. Miss Greco, she said, not a question. Mr. Santoro sent me. I'm Maria. We need to get you ready. Ready for what? She stepped inside without waiting for permission, just like he had, just like everyone in his world seemed to do. You're moving today. Mr. Santoro has arranged an apartment for you. Secure building. 24th floor. 2 bedrooms. She was already opening bags I hadn't noticed she was carrying. We'll pack your essentials now. Movers will handle the rest this afternoon. I didn't agree to move. Maria paused, looked at me with something between pity and amusement. With respect, Miss Greco, that decision has already been made. She pulled out clothes. Designer clothes. Still with tags. What are those? Mr. Santoro thought you might need appropriate attire for today. She held up a sleek black dress. Simple but expensive. You'll be meeting with his attorney at 10. Then lunch with his grandfather at noon. Then the new apartment at 3. My head spun. He planned my entire day? He planned your entire week, actually. But we'll start with today. No. The word came out stronger than I felt. Maria looked up from the clothes she was arranging on my bed.
I'm sorry.
No, I'm not wearing those clothes. I'm not meeting his attorney. I'm not having lunch with his grandfather. And I'm definitely not moving into an apartment he chose. I crossed my arms, trying to project confidence I didn't have. I appreciate that Mr. Santoro thinks he's helping, but I can take care of myself. I've been doing it for years. Maria's expression softened, just slightly. Miss Greco, may I speak candidly? I nodded. I've worked for the Santoro family for 12 years. I've seen Mr. Rocco make many decisions, strategic decisions, business decisions, decisions that have saved lives and ended lives. She stepped closer, but I've never seen him move this fast, this personally, this invested. What does that mean? It means he's scared. I blinked. Rocco Santoro? Scared? Scared of what? Of what the Russo family will do to you if they get the chance. She gestured to my window. This building has no security, no cameras, no guards. Your door lock could be picked by a child. Your fire escape leads directly to an alley. She wasn't being dramatic. She was being honest. The Russos know where you live. They know where you work. They know your routine. And they know that killing you sends a message to Mr. Santoro and his grandfather. My stomach turned cold. So this isn't about helping me. It's about protecting Santoro family reputation. It's about keeping you alive. Maria's voice was gentle but firm. Whether that distinction matters to you is your choice. At 9:45 a.m., I was sitting in Rocco's attorney's office, wearing the black dress, because Maria had made one thing crystal clear. The Russos weren't going to wait for me to decide if I wanted protection. They were going to act. And I could either accept Rocco's help or end up a statistic. The attorney was a woman in her 50s. Silver hair, sharp suit, sharper eyes. Miss Greco, I'm Sarah Chen. I handle all legal matters for the Santoro organization. She slid a folder across the mahogany desk. Mr. Santoro asked me to present you with several options. I opened the folder. Legal documents. Lots of them. Option 1, Sarah began. You sign a non-disclosure agreement. You agree to never speak about the Santoro family, your connection to them, or anything you witnessed last night. In exchange, your debts are paid and you receive a one-time payment of $50,000. My breath caught. 50,000? To start over. Somewhere else. New city, new name if you prefer. The Santoros have resources to make that happen. She flipped to the next document. Option 2. You accept Santoro protection. You move into the secured apartment. You follow security protocols. You allow guards to escort you when necessary. Your debts are still paid, but you remain in New York, under Santoro watch. For how long? Until the threat from the Russo family is neutralized. And how long does that usually take? Sarah's expression didn't change. Months. Sometimes years. Years. Living under guard. Living under his control. And option 3? There is no option 3. Sarah closed the folder. You either leave New York completely, or you accept protection here. Those are the only ways Mr. Santoro can guarantee your safety. I stared at the closed folder. What if I refuse both options? Then you sign a waiver releasing the Santoro family from any responsibility for your welfare, and you're on your own. The words hung in the air. Heavy, final. I've already drafted the waiver, Sarah continued. If that's your choice, but I should tell you that Mr. Santoro asked me to strongly advise against it. Of course he did. Not for the reasons you think. Sarah leaned forward. The Russo family doesn't make threats, Miss Greco. They make examples. And a young woman with Santoro connections who refuses protection. That's the kind of example they love to make. I stared at the documents. Option 1, run away, start over, $50,000 and a new identity. Option 2, stay, accept his control. Live in a cage, he called protection. Option 3, die. Probably within a week. I need to think about this. You have until noon, Sarah replied. Mr. Santoro is meeting you for lunch with his grandfather. He'll need your decision then. At 11:45, I found myself being escorted to the same upscale restaurant where everything had begun. Different private room, same suffocating luxury. Rocco was already there. So was his grandfather. The old man's face lit up when he saw me. Isabella? He stood, embraced me like I was family. You look beautiful. Come, sit. We have much to discuss. I sat. Rocco was watching me. Reading me. Sarah presented your options? He asked quietly. She did. And? I looked at the old man, at his warm smile, at the joy in his eyes when he looked at me. This wasn't just about Rocco protecting an asset. This was about his grandfather reuniting with his lost sister's granddaughter. This was about family. Real or forced, it didn't matter. In their world, family meant everything. I'll take option 2, I said. The old man beamed. Rocco's expression didn't change, but something in his eyes shifted. Relief? Satisfaction? I couldn't tell. There are conditions, I added, before I could lose my nerve. Rocco raised an eyebrow. Conditions? I keep working. Not 3 jobs, but I keep my nursing shifts at the hospital. I'm not going to sit in an apartment all day doing nothing. The hospital isn't secure. Then make it secure. Put guards there. Whatever you need. But I keep working. His jaw tightened. What else? I get privacy. The guards stay outside my apartment, not inside. I'm not living with armed men watching me shower. Agreed. That was easier than I expected. And I want regular updates. About the threat. About the Russos. About when this will end. I'm not staying in the dark while you make decisions about my life. The old man chuckled. She has spirit. This one. Just like her grandmother. Rocco was still watching me. Anything else? Yes. I met his gaze. Held it. You don't get to make decisions about my life without consulting me first. If something affects me, I get a say, not just information. Actual input. And if the situation requires immediate action, then you explain afterward. But you explain. No more surprises. Silence. The old man looked between us, amused, waiting. Finally, Rocco nodded. Agreed. He extended his hand across the table. We have a deal. Isabella. I shook his hand. His grip was firm, warm. And I tried not to think about how this felt less like a business arrangement and more like I just signed my life over to the devil himself. The apartment was stunning. 24th floor. Floor-to-ceiling windows. Manhattan skyline spreading out like a promise. 2 bedrooms. Modern kitchen. Furniture already in place. How did you furnish this so fast? I asked. Rocco stood by the windows, hands in his pockets. I didn't. This apartment has been mine for 2 years. I'm giving it to you. I turned to stare at him. This is your apartment. Was. Now it's yours. The deed will be transferred to your name by end of week. Why? Because I know it's secure. Because I trust the building. Because every guard and doorman here is on Santoro payroll. He turned to face me. And because you needed a home, this is it. Something in my chest tightened. He was giving me his apartment. Not renting. Not lending. Giving. Where will you live? I have other properties. He moved toward the door. Your things will arrive within the hour. Maria will help you settle in. Guards are positioned on this floor in the lobby. You have my number. Use it if you need anything. He was leaving. Just like that. Rocco. He paused, Hand on the doorknob. Thank you. He looked back at me. And for the first time since I'd met him, his expression softened. Just slightly. Your family now, Isabella. We protect family. The door closed behind him, leaving me alone. In his apartment, under his protection, bound by a deal I'd made to survive. I walked to the windows, looked out at the city below, and tried not to think about how easily I'd just let Rocco Santoro take control of every aspect of my life, or how a small, traitorous part of me was relieved. Because for the first time in years, I didn't have to carry everything alone. Someone else was carrying me, even if that someone was dangerous. Even if that someone was a monster. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Sleep well tonight, Isabella. Tomorrow we start teaching you how to survive in my world. I stared at the message. Tomorrow. He was already planning tomorrow. Already deciding what I needed to learn. Already controlling my future. And the worst part? I was going to let him. 3 days passed in that apartment. 3 days of armed guards outside my door. 3 days of Maria bringing groceries. I didn't ask for 3 days of silence from Rocco Santoro. He'd meant what he said about teaching me to survive in his world. The lesson started on day 4. I woke up at 5 a.m. to someone pounding on my door. Not knocking, pounding. I stumbled out of bed, still in my pajamas, and opened it to find one of Rocco's men standing there. Tall, muscular, expression blank. Mr. Santoro wants you downstairs. Now. It's 5 in the morning. Yes, ma'am. Tell him I'll come down at a reasonable hour. He said to bring you downstairs, with or without your cooperation. I stared at him. He stared back. Immovable. Give me 5 minutes. 4 minutes later, I was in the building's private gym. Rocco was already there, wearing workout clothes that showed off a body built for violence. Scars visible on his arms. Evidence of a life lived dangerously. You're late, he said, not looking up from wrapping his hands. You didn't give me notice. In my world, threats don't give notice. He finally looked at me. If someone comes for you, they won't wait until you're dressed and caffeinated. I crossed my arms. So you woke me up at dawn to prove a point. I woke you up at dawn to train you. He gestured to a mat on the floor. Self-defense, basic combat. How to identify exits. How to read a room for danger. I'm a waitress, not a secret agent. You're Isabella Greco's granddaughter. You speak a dialect that marks you as family, and you're under Santoro protection. He moved toward me. That makes you a target, whether you like it or not. I wanted to argue, but he was right, and I hated that he was right. Fine. I walked to the mat. Teach me. What followed was the most humiliating hour of my life. He showed me how to break free from a wrist grab. I failed. Repeatedly. He demonstrated proper stance. I fell over trying to replicate it. He explained. Pressure points. I couldn't find a single one on his body when he tested me. By 6 a.m., I was sweating and frustrated and angry at myself for being so useless. Again, Rocco said. Patient. Calm. I can't do this. Yes, you can. I've tried 15 times. Then try 16. I glared at him. He raised an eyebrow, waiting, and something in his expression, not mockery, not impatience, but genuine expectation that I could do this, made me try again. This time, I got it right. My wrist twisted free from his grip, exactly the way he'd shown me. There, he said. And for the first time since I'd met him, he almost smiled. You're learning. That became our routine. Every morning at 5 a.m., training. He taught me how to read body language, how to spot someone following me, how to use my environment as a weapon, how to run in heels without breaking an ankle. And slowly, grudgingly, I started to respect him. Not for the power, not for the control, but for the patience he showed me when I failed, for the way he corrected without condescending, for treating me like I was capable of learning to survive. On day 7, something changed. We were running through escape scenarios. He played the attacker. I was supposed to identify the exit and run, but when he grabbed me from behind, pulling me against his chest to demonstrate a restraint hold, I felt his heartbeat. Fast, faster than it should be, for someone so controlled. I twisted to look at him, and found his face inches from mine, his breath warm against my cheek, his dark eyes locked on my mouth. That's when you strike, he said quietly. But he didn't move. When your attacker is distracted. Are you distracted? I whispered. His jaw tightened. Every goddamn second you're near me. The admission hung between us. Raw, honest, dangerous. Then his phone buzzed. He released me immediately. Stepped back. Put distance between us like I'd burned him. That's enough for today, he said. His voice cold again. Professional. Same time tomorrow. He was gone before I could respond, leaving me standing alone on the mat, my heart racing, my skin still warm where he'd touched me, and the terrifying realization that I'd wanted him to kiss me. I'd wanted the monster to kiss me. That evening, I tried to establish some normalcy. I made dinner, nothing fancy. Just pasta and sauce, comfort food, the kind my grandmother used to make. I didn't expect Rocco to show up, but at 7 p.m., there was a knock on my door. Not the guards. Him. Maria said you were cooking, he said, standing in my doorway like he wasn't sure if he should enter. Smells good. It was the first time he'd seemed uncertain about anything. Do you want to come in? He hesitated, then nodded, watching him move through the apartment. His apartment was strange. He knew where everything was, but he didn't touch anything. Just looked around like he was seeing it differently now that I lived here. You changed it, he observed. I added some photos, and that blanket. I gestured to my grandmother's Afghan draped over the couch. I hope that's okay. It's your home now. You can change whatever you want. He said it simply, but something in his tone made it sound like he meant more than furniture. We ate dinner at the kitchen island. Quiet at first. Then he asked about my grandmother, about the stories she'd told me, about why she'd left Calabria, and I found myself talking. Really talking. Telling him things I'd never told anyone. About how she'd raised me after my parents died. About the dialect lessons in her kitchen. About the way she'd made me promise to never speak it in public. She was protecting you, Rocco said, from exactly what happened at that party. She knew. She knew that speaking that dialect would mark you as connected, as someone with bloodlines that mattered. He pushed his empty plate away. She wanted you to have a normal life, away from all of this. Did you know her? Before? He shook his head. My grandfather did. He says she was fierce, smart, refused to follow the traditional path for women in the family. What's the traditional path? Marriage to someone within the organization. Children. Keeping house. Supporting your husband's work. Sounds suffocating. It is. For most. He met my eyes. Your grandmother chose differently. She chose freedom over power. And what would you choose? The question slipped out before I could stop it. Too personal. Too intimate. But he didn't deflect. I don't get to choose. I was born into this. He stood, started gathering dishes. But if I could, I'd choose the same thing she did. I watched him rinse plates. This dangerous man, this mafia boss, doing dishes in my kitchen. You don't have to do that, I said. You cooked. I clean. Fair trade. It was so domestic. So normal. So completely at odds with everything else about him. And that's when I made my mistake. I could help you, I said. With the Russo situation. I know people at the hospital. Nurses. Security guards. People who see things. Hear things. I could ask around. Find out if anyone's seen Russo men. He went very still. The plate in his hand suspended under running water. What did you just say? Too late. I realized my error. I just meant, you want to help me? His voice was quiet. Deadly. By asking questions about the Russo family. At your hospital. I thought if I could gather information. No. He set the plate down carefully. Too carefully. Like he was trying very hard not to break it. Isabella, listen to me very carefully. He turned to face me. You don't help me. You don't ask questions. You don't gather information. You don't involve yourself in my business in any way. But I thought, you thought wrong. The coldness in his voice made me flinch. You're doing it again, I said. My own anger rising, making decisions about my life, telling me what I can and can't do, not listening when I try to help. Help? He laughed. Sharp, bitter. You think playing detective helps? You think asking questions that will get back to the Russos helps? I was just trying to what? Get yourself killed? Because that's what would happen. He moved closer. Not threatening, but intense. The second you start asking questions about the Russo family, they'll know. The second they know you're actively working with me, You become a legitimate target, not a bystander, not collateral, a combatant. Maybe I want to be a combatant. Maybe I'm tired of being protected and controlled and kept in the dark while you make all the decisions. Then you're a fool. The word hit like a slap. Get out, I said. Isabella, get out of my apartment. Now. It's my apartment. You said it was mine. You said I could change whatever I wanted. Well, I want you gone. He stared at me for a long moment, then nodded once, walked to the door, paused with his hand on the handle. The training continues tomorrow. 5 a.m. Be ready. And if I'm not, he looked back at me, and the expression on his face was devastating. Then I'll know you've given up on surviving, and I'll make other arrangements for your safety. The door closed behind him, leaving me alone with the ruins of our almost normal evening. And the sinking realization that he was right. I had no idea what I was doing, and my trying to help would only get me killed. But I couldn't just sit here doing nothing while he fought battles I'd helped create. I couldn't be useless. I couldn't be just another person he had to protect. I needed to matter. I needed to be needed. And that realization, that my entire motivation was about making myself indispensable to him, made me understand something terrible. My grandmother had warned me about this. About losing yourself in someone else's world. About needing to be needed more than you needed to breathe. I was already falling into the same trap, and I had no idea how to stop. 2 days after our fight, everything went to hell. I was at the hospital, my shift, the one thing Rocco had agreed I could keep. The one piece of normal in my chaos. I was checking vitals on a patient in the ER when my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Your boyfriend can't protect you. At work. A friend. My blood went cold. I looked around the ER. Patients. Nurses. Doctors. Security guard. At the entrance. Everything looked normal, but nothing felt normal. Another text. Look at the man in bed 7. He's been watching you for 20 minutes. I turned slowly. Bed 7. A man in his 40s. Admitted for chest pain. He was staring at me. Not with pain, with recognition. When our eyes met, he smiled and pulled out his phone, took a photo of me. I dropped my clipboard, grabbed my phone, called Rocco. He answered on the first ring. Isabella, there's someone here. At the hospital. He's watching me. He just took my photo. Get to the security office, now. His voice was sharp, controlled. Don't go anywhere alone. Find other people. Stay visible. Rocco, I'm 10 minutes away. Just get somewhere safe. The line went dead. I started walking toward the security office, trying to look calm, professional, not terrified. But the man from bed 7 was already gone. His bed empty, monitors still attached to nothing. He'd left his IV in, blood dripping onto the floor. He'd just walked out to follow me. I ran, down the corridor, past surprised nurses, toward the security office. My phone buzzed again. Another text. Running won't help. We own this hospital. 3 of us here, all exits covered. I burst into the security office. 2 guards inside. Young, inexperienced. Not Santoro men. Just hospital security. Lock the door, I gasped. Call 911. There are men here. Dangerous men. They're threatening me. One guard stood, pulled out a gun, pointed it at me. Sorry, sweetheart. Nothing personal. Time slowed. He was Russo. The security guard was Russo. They'd infiltrated the hospital. They'd been waiting, and I'd walked right into their trap. The second guard grabbed my arms, zip-tied my wrists behind my back. Rocco Santoro's little pet, the first guard said. You're worth more than we'll make in 10 years. He'll kill you, I said, my voice steadier than I felt. All of you. Not if we kill you first. They dragged me toward the back exit, the service entrance, where deliveries came in, where no one would see. I tried to scream. One of them clamped a hand over my mouth. Quiet, or we hurt the nurses too. The threat worked. I went quiet, let them drag me. My training with Rocco flashing through my mind. If you're ever taken, stay calm. Wait for an opening. Fight when they're distracted. We reached the service entrance. A black van waiting. Engine running. Side door open. This was it. Once I was in that van, I was gone. They shoved me forward. I stumbled. Fell to my knees on the concrete. Get up. One guard barked. I looked up and saw Rocco's car screech into the alley, doors flying open. 6 men pouring out, armed, moving like a tactical unit. The Russo guards fired first, gunshots echoing off brick walls. I threw myself flat on the ground, covered my head, prayed. More gunshots, shouting in Italian. A body hit the ground beside me. One of the Russo guards, blood spreading across concrete. Dead. Strong hands grabbed me, lifted me. I tried to fight. Isabella, stop. It's me, Rocco. He cut my zip ties with a knife, pulled me against him, checking for injuries. Are you hurt? Did they touch you? Did they? I'm fine. I managed. How did you know? I put a tracker on your phone. The second you called, I saw you moving toward the service entrance. His hands were shaking, actually shaking. I thought I'd be too late. The remaining Russo guard tried to run. One of Rocco's men shot him in the leg. He went down screaming. Rocco pulled me toward his car, away from the violence, away from the blood. We need to go. More of them might be coming. The hospital is being evacuated. I called in a bomb threat. Everyone's getting out. He opened the passenger door. Get in. I got in, because what else could I do? The drive back to the apartment was silent. Rocco's jaw tight, his knuckles white on the steering wheel. When we got inside, he finally exploded. What the fuck were you thinking? I stared at him. Excuse me? Staying at that hospital. Working there when I told you it wasn't secure. When I warned you the Russos would find a way. You said you'd make it secure. You said you'd put guards there. I did. And they killed them. 3 of my men are dead because you insisted on keeping that goddamn job. The accusation hung between us. Raw. Devastating. You're blaming me? My voice cracked. For your men dying? I'm blaming you for being stubborn. For refusing to listen. For thinking you knew better than me about security in my world. Your world? This is my life too. Your life? He laughed. Bitter. Angry. You've been in my world for 2 weeks. You don't know anything about survival. About sacrifice. About the cost of this protection. Then maybe I don't want your protection. Silence. Heavy. Loaded. What did you say? I met his eyes. Maybe I don't want your protection. Maybe I don't want to live like this. Maybe I don't want armed guards and daily training and constant fear that someone will kill me to get to you. His expression shuddered. So you want out. I want a choice. You made your choice. When you accepted my deal. When you moved into this apartment. When you let me into your life. Because I didn't have another option. There's always an option. His voice was cold now. Distant. You just didn't want to take it. What's that supposed to mean? It means you liked being protected. You liked being important. You liked having someone powerful care about whether you lived or died. The words hit like physical blows. Because he was right. He was absolutely right. And I hated him for it. Get out, I whispered. Isabella, get out of this apartment. Get your guards out. Get all of it out. Tears were streaming down my face now. I'm done. With you. With this. With all of it. You can't survive without my protection. Watch me. He stared at me for a long moment, then nodded once. Fine. You want out? You're out. He pulled out his phone, made a call, pull all security from Isabella Greco's location. Effective immediately. What are you doing? He ignored me. Yes. All of them. No, I don't care about the Russo threat. She's made her choice. He ended the call, looked at me with eyes that had gone completely cold. You're on your own now. Good luck surviving. He walked to the door, paused. One more thing. His voice was flat, empty. This apartment is still in my name. You have 48 hours to find somewhere else to live. After that, the locks change. The door closed behind him, leaving me alone, completely alone. For the first time since that party, there were no guards outside. No protection. No one watching over me. Just me. And the terrifying realization that I'd just destroyed the only thing keeping me alive. Because the Russos knew where I lived. They knew where I worked. They knew I was Isabella Greco's granddaughter. And now they knew I was unprotected. I sank to the floor, my back against the door. And for the first time since my grandmother died, I let myself break. Really break. Because I'd done this to myself. I'd pushed away the one person trying to keep me safe. I'd insisted on helping when I should have listened. I'd let my need to be needed destroy everything. And now I was going to pay the price. My phone buzzed. One final text from that unknown number. Thank you for making this so easy. See you soon, Isabella. They were coming, and I had no one left to call, no one left to save me. I'd made my choice, and it might have just killed me. I spent the first night alone in that apartment, trying to convince myself I'd made the right choice. That I didn't need Rocco Santoro, that I could survive on my own. That pushing him away was self-preservation, not self-destruction. By the second night, I knew I was lying to myself. The Russo text kept appearing in my phone. See you soon, Isabella. I changed my number. They texted the new one within an hour. I called the police. They took a report and told me to be careful. Like being careful would stop professional killers. I packed a bag, stayed at a different friend's apartment each night. Never the same place twice. But I could feel them watching, following, waiting. On the third day, I went back to work. Different hospital, different shift, different name on my badge. It didn't matter. At lunch, I found a note in my locker. Running makes it more fun. But you can't run forever. I quit that day. Didn't even finish my shift. Just walked out. Walked until my feet hurt. Until I didn't know where I was. Until I ended up sitting on a bench in Central Park at midnight. Crying. Really crying. The ugly kind. The kind my grandmother would have held me through. But she was gone. And Rocco was gone. And I was completely alone. For the first time in my life. I had no one to help. No one to fix. No one who needed me. And without that, I didn't know who I was. A woman sat down beside me. Old, weathered, kind eyes. You okay, honey? I shook my head. Couldn't speak. Man trouble? I laughed. It came out broken. Something like that. She pulled a tissue from her purse. Handed it to me. Let me tell you something my mama told me. You can't pour from an empty cup. And you sure as hell can't fill your cup by making yourself indispensable to someone who doesn't know they need you yet. I stared at her. You've been helping someone who won't be helped. I thought I was helping. But I think I was just trying to make myself necessary. She nodded. That's different than love, honey. That's fear. Fear that if you stop being useful, you stop mattering. The words hit like a physical blow, because she was right. Everything I'd done with Rocco, every offer to help, every insistence on being involved, it wasn't about him. It was about me, about needing to be needed, about proving I was worth keeping around. You matter whether you're useful or not, the woman said gently. The sooner you learn that, the sooner you can love someone for real. Not because you need them to need you, but because you choose them. And they choose you back. She stood, patted my shoulder, and walked away into the darkness, leaving me alone with a truth I'd been running from my entire life. I went back to the apartment that night. Rocco's apartment. The one he'd given me. The one I had 48 hours to leave. I looked around at the space I'd tried to make mine. My grandmother's Afghan. The photos I'd hung. The dinner I'd cooked for him. All attempts to make myself necessary. To prove I belonged. To earn my place in his world. But I'd never asked myself if I wanted to be in his world. If I wanted to live with armed guards and constant danger and the weight of his protection that felt more like a cage. I'd just been grateful someone powerful wanted me around. Someone who made me feel important. Indispensable. Needed. And when he said he didn't need me, I'd fallen apart. Not because I loved him, but because I didn't know how to be anything other than needed. I sat on the floor, my back against the couch. And for the first time, I asked myself the question I'd been avoiding. Who am I? Without someone to save. The answer terrified me. I didn't know. I'd been so busy helping my grandmother, then helping at work, then helping Rocco, that I'd never figured out who I was when no one needed help. My phone buzzed. Not the Russos this time. Maria, Rocco's assistant. Miss Greco. Mr. Santoro wanted me to inform you that the 48-hour notice has been extended indefinitely. The apartment is yours for as long as you need it. No conditions. No strings. He's also arranged for a security detail outside the building. They won't contact you. You won't see them, but they're there. He said to tell you, you were right. You deserve a choice. This is me giving you one. I read the message 3 times. He'd given me the apartment, given me protection, without demanding anything in return. without requiring me to be useful or helpful or needed. Just because. Because he cared. Even after I'd pushed him away. Even after I'd told him I didn't want his protection. He'd protected me anyway. Not to control me. Not to possess me. To keep me safe. And he'd done it while giving me exactly what I'd asked for. Space. Choice. Freedom. I started crying again. But this time, it was different. Not devastation. Realization. He wasn't trying to control me. He'd been trying to keep me alive. And I'd been so focused on proving I could help him that I'd never stopped to consider what he was trying to give me. Safety. A home. A choice. I picked up my phone. Started to call him. Stopped. Because calling him now would be the same pattern. Reaching out because I needed something. Needed to fix things. Needed to be needed again. No. If I was going to change, I had to start now. I had to figure out who I was. What I wanted. Not what someone else needed from me. I stood up. Walked to my grandmother's things. The boxes I'd been avoiding since her death. I'd been too busy helping everyone else to grieve properly. Too busy making myself necessary to process my own loss. I opened the first box. Her photos. Her letters. Her journals. I sat down and started reading, and discovered something I'd never known. My grandmother had been exactly like me. Every entry was about someone she'd helped. Someone she'd saved. Someone who'd needed her. Until the last few years. Then the entries changed. I spent my whole life making myself indispensable to others. But in doing so, I lost myself. I don't know who I am without someone to care for. Without someone who needs me. I pray Isabella doesn't make the same mistake. She'd known. She'd seen this pattern in herself. And she'd been trying to warn me. The training. The dialect. The stories about leaving Calabria. It wasn't just about protection. It was about having an identity beyond being needed. I read until sunrise. And by the time the sun came up, I understood something fundamental. I couldn't be with Rocco. Not yet. Not until I knew who I was without him. Not until I could choose him. Because I wanted him. Not because I needed to be needed by him. I needed to find myself first. Figure out what I wanted from life. Not what I could do for others, but what I wanted for me. And that meant staying away. No matter how much it hurt. No matter how much I wanted to call him. No matter how terrified I was of the Russos. I had to do this alone. Not because I was running from him, but because I was finally running toward myself. I texted Maria back. Thank you. Tell Mr. Santoro I appreciate the apartment and the protection, and tell him I need time. Not because I don't care, but because I need to figure out who I am before I can be with anyone, including him. The response came quickly. He said he understands, and he'll be waiting, however long it takes. I set my phone down, looked around the apartment. My apartment now, the first thing that was truly mine. Not because I'd earned it, not because I'd made myself indispensable, but because someone had given it to me, no strings attached. And for the first time in my life, I was going to use it to find myself. Not to help someone else, but to help me. 2 weeks passed. 2 weeks of silence between us. 2 weeks where I woke up in the apartment he'd given me, protected by guards I never saw, living under his care even though we weren't speaking. 2 weeks where I finally started figuring out who I was. I'd stopped working triple shifts, stopped saying yes to every favor anyone asked, stopped making myself indispensable to survive. Instead, I enrolled in the Calabrian language courses my grandmother had wanted me to take, not to be useful to Rocco's family, but because I wanted to connect with my heritage. For me, I started therapy, real therapy, with a counselor who specialized in codependency and family trauma. I learned words I'd never known applied to me. Enmeshment, parentification, helper syndrome. I learned that my grandmother's warning wasn't just about physical danger. It was about losing myself in other people's needs. About making my worth dependent on being necessary. And I learned something else. Something that terrified and liberated me in equal measure. I missed him. Not because I needed to fix him. Not because I wanted to save him. But because when I imagined my future, the one I was building for myself, he was in it. By choice. Not obligation. Not fear. Choice. The realization hit me on a Tuesday morning. I was sitting in my grandmother's favorite chair, reading her journals, when I found an entry from her final year. Isabella reminds me so much of myself at her age. Always helping, always caring, always needed. But I pray she learns, sooner than I did, that love isn't about being necessary. It's about being chosen, and choosing back, not from desperation, but from wholeness. I closed the journal, picked up my phone, stared at Maria's contact. I could ask her to arrange a meeting. Safe, professional, controlled. Or I could do something I'd never done in my life. Ask for what I wanted, directly, without pretense. I opened a new message. Not to Maria. To him. I'm not ready to come back to your world. But I'd like to see you. Just you. No guards. No business. No family obligations. Just coffee. If you want. My finger hovered over send. This was different. Before, every interaction had been about what I could do for him. How I could help. How I could make myself indispensable. This was just me, asking to see him because I wanted to. Not because he needed me. Not because I needed to be needed. Because I chose him, and I wanted to give him the chance to choose me back. I hit send. The response came within 30 seconds. Tomorrow, 10 a.m. The cafe where we first talked. Just us. No possessiveness. No demands. No control. Just agreement. I showed up 10 minutes early. Old habits. But this time, I didn't spend those 10 minutes planning what I'd say to make him need me. I spent them breathing, centering, reminding myself that I was enough, with or without him. He arrived exactly at 10. No motorcade. No guards visible. Just Rocco Santoro. In jeans and a black Henley, looking more human than I'd ever seen him. He sat across from me, ordered an espresso, didn't speak. The silence should have been uncomfortable. Instead, it felt safe, like we were both giving each other space to exist without performing. I read my grandmother's journals, I finally said. All of them. His expression didn't change, but his hands, resting on the table, tensed slightly. She was like me, I continued, always helping, always needed. She spent her whole life making herself indispensable to others, and she died, wishing she'd figured out who she was without that. Isabella, I don't want that, I interrupted gently. I don't want to wake up at 70 and realize I never knew who I was, that I only knew who I was, for other people. He leaned back, studied me. You look different, he observed. I feel different, I admitted. I'm still figuring out who I am, but for the first time, I'm doing it for me, not to be useful to anyone else, including me, especially you. Something flickered in his eyes. Pride, maybe, or relief. The Rossos are still a threat, he said quietly. Your connection to my family makes you a target. That hasn't changed. I know. I can't stop protecting you. Even if you don't want it. Even if it makes you feel controlled. He leaned forward. Your safety isn't negotiable. Old Isabella would have argued. Would have insisted she could handle it alone. Would have seen his protection as proof he didn't trust her. New Isabella understood something different. I'm not asking you to stop protecting me, I said calmly. I'm asking you to trust that I can make my own choices within that protection, that I can want your help without being helpless, that I can accept your care without losing myself. His jaw tightened. You're asking me to let you be in danger while I stand back and watch. No, I corrected softly. I'm asking you to let me stand beside you, not behind you, not in front of you, beside you. That's not how this works, Isabella. In my world, your world has rules, I interrupted. I understand that, but this, I gestured between us, doesn't work if I'm just someone you protect. I need to be someone you trust, someone you partner with, someone who has agency, even inside your protection. He was quiet for a long moment. Then, the Russos are planning something. My intelligence says they're targeting family members, trying to draw me out. I waited. I need to handle it, he continued. Soon, within the week. Then let me help. No, not as a rescuer. I clarified. Not because I need to be needed, but because I have skills you need. I speak the dialect. I understand the culture. And I can move in spaces you can't without drawing attention. His expression darkened. You're asking me to put you in danger. I'm asking you to let me choose to be in danger. There's a difference. Not to me. I reached across the table, took his hand. He stiffened, but didn't pull away. I spent my whole life making myself necessary to survive, I said quietly. With my grandmother, at work, with you. I thought if I was indispensable, I'd never be abandoned. His fingers tightened around mine. But I've learned something these past 2 weeks, I continued. I don't want to be necessary. I want to be chosen. And I want to choose back. Not from need, but from want. Isabella, I choose you, I said simply. Not because you need me. Not because I need to save you. But because when I imagine my life, you're in it. And I want to face whatever's coming together. As partners. Not as protector and protected. The cafe sounds faded. His thumb traced circles on my palm. If I let you do this, he said slowly, if I let you stand beside me instead of behind me, and something happens to you, then it was my choice. I finished. Not your failure. He closed his eyes, breathed. When he opened them again, something had shifted. You'll follow my lead, he said. You'll wear protection. You'll have a panic button. And if I say get out, you get out. No arguments. Deal. And when this is over, his voice dropped. When the Russos are handled and you're safe, we figure out what this is. What we are. Without the danger. Without the urgency. We do it right. My throat tightened. I'd like that. He stood. Pulled me up with him. And for the first time since that night in the penthouse, he touched me. Not possessively. Not protectively. But tenderly. His hand cupped my face. I missed you, he said quietly. Not because I needed you, but because I wanted you here. I missed you too. He kissed my forehead. Gentle, almost reverent. The Russos are meeting tomorrow night, he murmured against my skin. Underground casino. Neutral territory. I'm going to end this, and you're going to help me do it. I pulled back, met his eyes. Together. Together, he confirmed. And for the first time in my life, I felt like an equal partner. Not a helper, not a rescuer. Not someone making themselves indispensable. Just chosen. And choosing back. The underground casino was exactly where Rocco said it would be. Beneath a dry cleaning shop in Chinatown. Hidden in plain sight. The Russo family had gathered every major player in the city. A neutral meeting. To discuss territories. But Rocco knew the truth. They were planning to eliminate him. And I was the bait they didn't know they'd already caught. We entered through separate doors. Me through the front, dressed as a server. Him through the back, with Marco and 2 guards. The plan was simple. I'd confirmed the Russos had breached the treaty. He'd handle the rest. No heroics from me. No overprotection from him. Just partnership. But when I saw the weapons on the table, hidden under cards and chips, I realized something. This wasn't a negotiation. It was an execution. And Rocco was walking into a trap. I had a choice. Old Isabella would have rushed in, created a distraction, sacrificed herself to save him, made herself indispensable through crisis. New Isabella understood something different. I pulled the fire alarm. Simple, effective, not heroic, just smart. The casino erupted into chaos. Sprinklers, alarms, confusion. The Russos scattered, and Rocco appeared beside me, his hand firm on my arm. That was reckless, he said, but he was smiling. That was strategic, I corrected. He kissed me then, fast, hard, claiming, but when he pulled back, his eyes held something new. Respect. Let's go home, he said, not a command, an invitation. We left the casino together. No dramatic shootout, no last-minute betrayal. Just 2 people who'd chosen each other, who'd learned to be whole separately, so they could be stronger together. Later that night, in the apartment that was now truly mine, Rocco stood at the window, looking out at the city he controlled. The Russos won't stop, he said quietly. The night was just the beginning. They'll come for us again, harder next time. I moved beside him, not behind him, beside him. Then we'll handle it, I said simply. Together. He turned to me, and in his dark eyes I saw everything I'd been looking for. My whole life. Not someone who needed me, but someone who chose me. I love you, he said. 3 words I'd waited my entire life to hear without condition, without transaction, without having to earn them. I love you too, I whispered, and I meant it. Not because he saved me, not because I saved him, but because we'd saved ourselves and chosen each other from that wholeness. His phone buzzed. Marco. The message was brief, but I saw Rocco's jaw tighten. What? I asked. He showed me the screen. The Russos just allied with the Marathas. Double the soldiers, double the threat. They're declaring war. I should have been terrified, but instead I felt ready. Well, I said calmly, taking his hand. I guess that means part 2 is going to be interesting. He laughed. Actually laughed, and pulled me into his arms. With you, he murmured against my hair. Everything's interesting. Outside, the city lights glittered like a promise, or a warning. I didn't know which, but for the first time in my life, I wasn't facing it alone. And I wasn't losing myself to save someone else. I was whole. I was chosen. I was home.